Well, hey everybody, welcome to the TVCRE podcast. This is episode number 6, or Liho in Chinese, as Taylor just taught us. Today we have Karlee May, the executive director with ULI Idaho, and we did pry her out of her secret security duties for today, so she's going to be here to help us with this interview. And we're excited to do a podcast and kind of let you guys know everybody who's interested in commercial real estate. I guess the benefits of being in ULI, what I've found about it, Taylor and I went to an event recently together, and
Yeah, it was awesome.
we really enjoyed it. Just kind of learn about you and about how it can impact people in the market who are investors or building owners or brokers or property managers. I guess all the 8 people that listen to our podcast will get to hear about what you do. So that's great.
Cool.
So yeah, I guess start us out and tell us a little bit about you before, or what led you to becoming this executive director position, because that's
Yeah, what's your story? Yeah, that's
right.
right. It's up there. How'd
My
you get
story,
Yeah,
yeah.
Karlee.
The Karlee.
So let's see.
So way back, no. Yeah, I've been the executive director for ULI Idaho, which is also ULI, we're Idaho and Montana, both states.
Okay.
And actually a little bit of Eastern Washington, if we're being honest. That's kind of a new thing. So,
Right on.
and I've been in this role for going on 2 years, which has flown by. Previously, I was I worked for the Downtown Boise Association for about 10 years, really in a programming, placemaking kind of event role. But that was my introduction to ULI. I was actually a partner with ULI,
Okay.
involved with the organization in that regard, helping give tours and some of the programming that would happen, which you guys have participated
Yeah.
in downtown was kind of how I got engaged. And then when this opportunity came up, that's kind of how it happened.
Right on. So if we dial it back a little bit further, like what's your educational background? Where'd you grow up?
Yep. So I grew up here, 3rd-generation Boise girl. So
Those are
yep, saw it.
kind of a unicorn these days.
Kind of a unicorn these days. So my family was in the hospitality industry. Grew up in the North End with family businesses in downtown, and kind of always found myself engaged in that regard. So went to school here in the North End. I went to North. I went to Boise High. Went to
Okay.
Boise State.
Right on.
So kind of where I've traveled a lot, I've kind of always come back here. So
Very cool.
yeah.
And you have traveled a lot, right?
I have traveled a lot.
How many
I
countries?
love to travel. How many countries? I wasn't prepared to have to count those. Several.
Yeah, a lot. I mean,
Several.
I know
Yeah.
it's
Love to
vast.
travel. Love to travel domestically and internationally.
Right
So
on.
just always like coming back. This is a great place to be.
Where's your one spot you want to travel that you haven't been yet?
I would love to go to Spain and to Italy. Haven't hit either of those. I was really close over there this spring, but didn't make it to those spots. So
Okay.
first thing that came to mind anyways.
So I started as a commercial broker like a couple years ago, and I heard about this ULI, and I was like, what is ULI? I thought it was like a urological institute.
Oh gosh.
I did. I was like, I don't know what I'm getting all
No.
these things for. So can you kind of inform like the regular listener or the viewer what ULI even is?
Yeah, absolutely. So ULI is the Urban Land Institute. It's a global nonprofit that is all sectors of the real estate industry. So commercial, residential and industrial, everything from land use down to brokers, developers, architects and engineers. It kind of touches everything. If you're
Yeah.
part of the industry at all, it's it's an organization for you.
Seems like the word is the built environment,
It is
right?
the built environment. Yep. Anything that touches the built environment. And that can be
Everything.
so many things. Yeah. So it's a pretty vast group of people. Longest standing kind of multidisciplinary group of this type globally.
Oh,
So
cool.
where our district councils, 20 some odd years old, ULI is not. It's significantly bigger than that. I think
Right.
it's getting towards 50,000 members globally.
Awesome.
We've got,
Yeah, that's a good
about a
group.
little under 300 here. So we do our part, but it's a good sized piece of the industry.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
it's everybody touching the built
The
environment.
built environment.
And so, like locally, who would be involved in the chapter?
So anybody in any piece of the real estate from residential, commercial, or industrial buildings, land owners, cities and counties, architects, engineers, actual developers, building these new projects. So
Financing
it's
too,
financing,
probably. Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
And what would be the reason somebody would join ULI? Like, why would I join? I already know this.
You already, yeah. Why did you join?
Yeah.
So I mean, we're a membership and networking based organization for sure. It's being in the room with the leaders, in your industry very specifically, which is a huge piece of it.
Yeah.
And I think we do a really good job pulling people together, new faces all the time, as well as the folks that have been here doing, from all of the different pieces the whole way through. We really work towards the mission that ULI puts out there nationally and globally by providing educational programming, kind of fact-based and best practices for any piece of the industry as a whole, and kind of purposeful tours and things like that. Keep people engaged in what's happening in your community as well as what other communities are seeing.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely say that I was initially attracted to ULI because of those networking opportunities. For a title agent and the people that we work with, right? We're working a lot with brokers like Dre, real estate attorneys, lenders, developers, investors, right? And those people are all involved with ULI, right? And so in terms of choosing a networking group that makes a ton of sense for us and how we want to develop our business, ULI was a perfect fit. Then I join ULI and find out about a lot of really, really interesting programs that I think our market maybe is still is underutilizing, right? I know you've brought in a few of those programs recently to analyze specific projects. Can you talk about those for us?
Yeah, so we kind of have two big resources, I would say, that are underutilized from that aspect. We have a whole advisory services program that we offer, which is kind of what we're in the thick of right now with several of these, which is bringing outside or tapping into in your market experts to workshop specific kind of scope of work issues or problems or maybe specific site uses to figure out what's going to be the best way to move forward. Recently, we did a technical assistance panel with the city of Boise talking specifically about the housing market and how to move forward through the growth challenges that we're having without losing sight of what's important to our community, which is very important to all of us.
Yeah.
This week, we're working with the city of Meridian on a pathways and parks connection plan for how to do everything out here, how to bridge the gap of some of the really cool pieces that are in place, and then some of these areas that are still looking for, how do we get it all connected? Right. So that's kind of we're right in the middle of the week of it, but it's a pretty cool project so far. And then in 2 weeks, we're working with Garden City and a couple of industry partners down there on a redevelopment.
Is that one specific to Bill Truax's project?
Has
it spread a little bit broader than that?
Listen to that one, went to San Diego, right?
Yep. So that's exactly. So that project analysis session we did at the spring meeting in San Diego has now rolled forward into a 5-day, 8 people from outside of Idaho coming in to say, here's what opportunity exists in this area, not only for him as a developer, but for nearby businesses, open lots, things that need to be, refigured down there.
Yeah.
The city itself, from a planning perspective.
Has Garden City been open to it?
Absolutely. Yep. They're in as a sponsor to this master plan that ULI is kind of helping workshop potential solutions for, right? You're still going to make your own decision at the end of the day, but it's the brightest and best minds that are experienced in these particular situations coming together to say, these are your options and your best paths forward if you're looking at best practices and things like that.
And these were like guys who were a part of other city developments, right? I remember
Absolutely.
Like 6 guys or 5 guys on the board that had helped other large cities go through transitions and help them create paths to...
Yep. They look at similarities like your demographics and your growth that you're experiencing, political, climate, little geographical, stipulations that you might have with a specific site. If there's parking requirements, you bring in a parking expert. If it's an industrial, or a adaptive kind of reuse project, there's people that's their background.
Right.
Walkable, bikeable communities, that's a big piece of this particular project that they're looking at. And so getting those experts too.
You can't put a monetary value on how important that is to have that kind of partnership come in, because if you're trying to get a development across and you're working with the city, and you can bring in outside expert resources that can help you get that project across. That
are hands off, that just say,
right.
this is what you, unbiased, that unbiased opinion is so valuable.
But I don't know any other like networking group that you can tap into that kind of resource that's global, where you can
I
bring
don't
in
know
professionals
any
from.
other ones either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
think it's
We do a good job
incredible.
with
Like,
that,
the
yeah.
fact that you can leverage like a network outside of your state and outside of your direct sphere, and they'll come to bat for you on things like that if it gets to be a large enough project. Like, it's incredible.
It's a really big value of ULI is it kind of takes, by being engaged with your local district council, kind of takes that cold call feel out of reaching out to, whether it's locally or not,
right.
to be able to just say, hey, I'm a part of ULI in this particular area. It's kind of already a warm conversation that people say, oh, I love ULI. I'll happily,
Opens the door.
yeah, absolutely. And so that's a really big benefit to members kind of across the whole network. You can call anybody and
Right.
say, hey, we're looking at something there, or you've done this, or you do what we do in that market. Talk to us about that.
Yeah.
So
Something I love about that is we're wrestling with these issues that are really thorny or challenging here locally. And I think sometimes we feel like, all right, we've got to come up with this solution on our own. It's got to be new and novel because these are new issues for our valley. And then you look at these other jurisdictions that have been working on this issue for decades, maybe longer, and have made mistakes and have learned from mistakes. And if we as a state or we as a Treasure Valley can look to those other areas and find out what worked, what didn't work, it doesn't mean we need to lose the sort of what makes us Idaho. It's okay to ask for help, and that's a great resource.
it's a very cool resource to be able to offer.
So that's advisory services. Is there are there other programs that are related to that or similar or different that are also available?
Another program that we offer kind of from that educational component is our urban plan program, which is a hands-on, literally building block, moving Legos around workshop to teach you all of the pieces of a development or a redevelopment project. Everything from being on the financial side to being, a neighborhood liaison or working with city returns and things like that to see if a project's going to pencil.
Right.
And a design of what the neighborhood's going to look like. All of that's components. And ideally, you're getting assigned a position on your team that is not your day job. So you might know the finances and how all of that comes together and what numbers need to look like, but maybe you don't know what it's like to be the city liaison representing every stakeholder.
Right.
And having to answer that. And so you go through this, there's variations of how it goes, but you go through this workshop as part of this team for a mock redevelopment that you pitch to a mock city council, and you learn the whole process.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating to watch how somebody that knows their part so well say, oh, well, now I realize why this is so difficult. We can't, you can't just do that without there being some trade-offs that you have to understand.
And
so it's a pretty cool tool.
And that's a benefit that's open to ULI members.
Yep.
How often is that workshop going on?
So we, and actually that is one that non-members can dip their toes in a little bit too. It's a service that we can provide outside of our membership network if somebody wants it. Lots of times it's a good hook to kind of see some of the value of the educational side that we bring to the table. And we do them kind of as requested. A few times a year. We have some partners that we do them very regularly with. Sometimes team building, internal workshops. Sometimes in a community to help educate community members so that they're prepared for what's coming into their neighborhood and why those decisions are hard to make and who's making them, and that can kind of just give better advocates, I guess, in your own neighborhoods.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's a very cool program. I don't know if either of you have done it.
I have not, but I want to.
Now we're
sign us up.
Cool. We'll do. Meeting. Yeah, we have a couple coming up.
Do you? Okay. Yeah, definitely let us know. We'd love to do that.
Cool. So Karlee, after joining ULI, what's some things you have learned about kind of the development and the commercial real estate industry here in Boise, Idaho?
Well, just how, I guess, initially kind of know it on paper, but starting to engage with some of the components of the real estate industry. Here, it's so much broader than I even really understood, and I feel like I kind of understood it. But there's so many moving pieces and people to know and to engage with that do their part so well. That's been really kind of eye-opening for me, and also how much work is happening. So I'm familiar with what's happening in my neighborhood.
Yeah, you've got your little world.
And what you're familiar with. For me, that's the bench in downtown and kind of that area of Boise. But it's been eye-opening to what's happening in the valley, the growth that the state is seeing, the growth that the region is seeing, and then being able to look at national trends and how it relates to what we're experiencing here. That's something that I wasn't really doing and wasn't really in tune with before, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, a question that we've asked all of our podcast guests so far is sort of a prediction about sort of our current real estate market and economic situation, right? We're asking before, and we recorded our first one in what, January to February, sometime around there. So the answers have kind of differed, but what are you feeling and seeing? Do you have any kind of prediction about how the market's going to look going forward?
Well, definitely as a people collector and not a doer, I
Mhm.
will preface that, I guess. I'm not in it every day the same way that you guys are. It seems like to me what I'm seeing and hearing is, construction costs and labor are still, and supply is a big piece that still hasn't caught back up yet. And you can have everybody ready to work, and if you don't have materials to do or something to sell or something to finance, there's nothing to do there. And so it seems like the what I'm seeing is there's all of these great plans in place that are just waiting for the next kind of domino to fall so they have their part to keep going. And I think time corrects that. I don't think it's any one piece.
Right.
There's really great projects just waiting for the next step.
Right.
Is kind of what I've seen. Certainly no lack of cool things coming. And ideas coming and ideas for existing buildings and whatnot. There's lots out there. It's just getting to that point that it's time to go.
Right.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity entering the valley and a lot of new life and energy and influence. And recently, though, with the change of the federal government's rate hikes and the BIPs that they're going to increase like crazy, we've seen a pullback in financing, which has halted a lot of projects that were relying upon that kind of financing. So
Yep.
it's been an interesting time. Like
It's been
Taylor said,
interesting.
we've been asking everybody, and I think it feels like right now we're kind of in the, I don't know, like kind of a wave of turmoil that they don't know what they're going to do exactly yet. It's
Right,
like a confusing
right.
wave, and so everybody's kind of projects that were under contract months ago have kind of dissipated a little bit, and the financing has disappeared, and deals have to really pencil now because the interest rates have changed dramatically, and we're going to see cap rates kind of start to increase, which is kind of a nice release valve because I was talking to an old broker who said, I used to not buy anything under a 10 cap in Boise. And I was like, what are you making this like people buying in the high 2s and the low 3s? It's just unacceptable. It has to get back to a level that makes sense for people because if their money costs 5%, it has to be.
Getting things to pencil seems to be the hard piece right now, just with all the layers.
Well, and it takes some time, right? Because a seller initially is going to say, well, I think my property's worth this because I know that other properties have traded at this value. And then now with the ability to finance projects, becoming more difficult, eventually the sellers are going to have to soften. I think we've started to see that. Initially, they'd kind of stood their ground, but now there's some retrading going on and that price slowly starts to work down a little bit.
But what I like to know is the fundamentals are the same, and Boise is still growing. It's still a
Very
great
much.
place to be, and you're probably seeing this,
Whole
right?
valley,
With your
yeah.
networking and your relational ability. You're seeing like many new people coming here,
Yes.
moving here. People probably engaging with you and saying, "We like Boise. What's going on in Boise?"
Yep.
So, I guess a follow-up question would be like, what's the value of networking in the commercial real estate business when it comes to getting deals done?
I mean, I think that I personally think that networking is the best thing you can do for yourself, for your industry, for yourself personally. You never know who it's going to have been great to know what that's going to lead to, a sale, a friend, a partner, a business relation, whatever that might be. And so taking the time to do that. And I think there's so many opportunities. So picking something that fits what you're trying to accomplish, something in your industry, people that you're trying to know, people that have been doing that you're trying to learn from, those opportunities, really kind of being thoughtful about how you spend your time and how you network. Balancing that is a big piece, but certainly the value of putting yourself out there and what you do out there within your own industry, I think is the best thing you can do.
So you obviously hit the ground running in this position. You had previous relationships. Can you kind of share with our viewers what you think helped you to be successful in your position right away in building relationships?
I mean, certainly it was that I've been building those same relationships for a long time. Back to that networking piece, right? I mean, there were absolutely lots of people I didn't know and still don't know in the industry in our valley. That's opportunity for me still also. Something that I still do too is networking, but having relationships and having put myself in those positions to learn from the community and meet people is what got me this position. on top of my qualifications, of
That's
course,
right, of course. Yeah.
besides all of that. But no, I do think that that was a really big piece of it, and it was relationships that I had that opened that door, that they said, hey, this is something we know that you know. These are people we know that you enjoy working with, and this is something that you care about. You've made that clear by participating.
Right.
This is an opportunity. What do you think? And I think that we all have those same opportunities. It's just spending the time to go make those connections. So
Yeah, cultivate those relationships.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what's one project you're excited about in Boise right now? Something that you think is awesome, or
I am really excited about all of the potential things in that kind of section of Garden City that we're going to be really diving into in a couple
Yeah.
of weeks. I think that is a really neat area. So not Boise specifically, but I think that there's a lot of really cool opportunity right there, and it's a spot that is booming in its own right.
Tons of
It's fun.
multifamily.
Yes, there's so much going
well,
in.
it's incredible seeing right now. If you
Those
come down
cranes down
Curtis
there.
and you look up
Yeah.
and you can see, I think they just put on the 6th story on the west side of Curtis, and on the other side they have 5 stories built. And so you come right down there, or veterans, I guess. You
Yeah,
come right
veterans,
down. You
yeah.
look up on both sides right there. The cranes are up in the air, but it's actually becoming real, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
have
Starting
that
to take
sports
some shape.
bar.
Yep.
I think on
There's
top.
some neat
and-
stuff going in down there, so
Yeah.
I think that that's exciting. And then I'm a downtown Boise girl. That's my home, I would say. And so I think some of the projects that are coming in, about to break ground, or kind of just have that's an area that I like seeing continue to change. I think the things that are coming down the pipeline downtown in Boise are great projects that are just going to make it that much more exciting and lively down there, and that's where I like to spend my time. So yeah, those are exciting pieces for me.
As an Idahoan, going through all, I mean, I'm an Idahoan as well, right? Going through all this growth, do you think it's shifted our culture at all? Like the Idahoan culture, the vibe of the city?
I think in some ways, yes. In some good ways, yes. I think I'm not an anti-growth person, so I think that it's important at the same time to be intentional with the type of growth that you have, and keeping the pieces that we appreciate, why we haven't left. Or move back in many cases, exactly, and why people want to live here in the first place, right? You're moving here because there's some really great things about the Valley and about Idaho, and you want to be here, and that's because it's different than where you were, and so not bringing those things and keeping in mind the important things that we find valuable here. But with that, new people, new ideas, all of that is, I think, really good for all of us to have some new input and some, in our communities.
I guess one of the things that we could talk about is when people want to join ULI or they want to know more about it, how could they learn more about it? What would you advise?
Idaho.uli.org is our website.
There's such things as the internet.
The internet's just,
Yeah.
it's
Do they have
incredible.
like some introductory free classes? I know we have that.
Yeah, so we do. You don't have to be a member to attend everything that we do. There are certainly member-only opportunities, but there are also, I'm interested, or bring a guest that's interested, so you can kind of see who shows up, the type of content that it is, what an example networking, situation would look like. There's lots of opportunities to come. There's one on the 30th. Tuesday the 30th is the next opportunity for a non-member to come, kind of learn more. Certainly we have a committee of people that are very dedicated volunteers to that this is the right place to put your time, and they will sit down with you and have a cup of coffee and say this is the value of being a part of ULI. And so there's several opportunities, but certainly taking advantage of coming to something.
Right.
I think seeing it and seeing who's there, and also how much fun we are as a group is a really big piece. It makes you want to be involved and come back.
Yeah, and there's different price points, right, for nonprofit members and student members and
Young leaders, corporate memberships, public agencies. There's several different structures there. So really, once you're interested, saying this, here are all the boxes that I check or don't check, and then it's kind of just a little matrix grid of here's what it would look like to be involved. And then there's lots of opportunities for deeper involvement besides just membership, by being on committees or helping run with certain program initiatives that we have. And so you can kind of decide your level of involvement, and where most people are just members, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I was I liked when we went to San Diego. I was impressed to see how many city officials from other cities were there.
At the ULI spring meeting.
Yeah.
Yes,
It
yes.
was pretty impressive, and just the amount of people that you guys brought from Boise, and so I just think for anybody, if anybody's looking for a really good, I mean, I came away with Taylor and I go, I think this is the best networking event I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Because we went to it and you're allowed to travel with people, you can go deep on projects, and you're kind of put into a situation where you can be collaborative instead of just going and be connective.
Yeah.
And so and I've told you this before, right? I think it's the greatest organization. We bought books there that were produced by ULI that are exceptional. And
Yeah.
that's why we wanted to have you on. I think it's like a little hidden niche that nobody knows about.
Yeah, we produce nationally, and globally, I guess too. They produce a lot of ULI at that level. Produces a lot of resources, books, studies, in depth, kind of pieces that, and they're open to what needs to be looked at too. But there are so many reference materials and educational components that aren't produced at the local level that you can tap into, like what you're talking about, that exists out there. I mean, that's a whole additional arm of the things that are happening.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way, I think, to increase your expertise, your background, and then traveling to the spring meeting was just an awesome way to solidify relationships with other ULI members from Idaho. You kind of think go somewhere else, meet new people out there, but really it was get to know our Idaho team better. I thought that was super cool. And there's a fall meeting coming up, is that right?
Fall meeting this year, is in Dallas. And then
that's October-ish?
Yep, kind of the 22nd-ish, whatever those dates are, in October.
Okay.
That's the next national meeting.
Okay.
Yep, and then we follow that with, that's kind of the trends, right? What the outlook
Which
regionally,
would be an interesting
nationally,
one. Yeah.
and then they dial that into our specific areas from that. And so that's kind of the initial release of that information that then really shapes what ULI does and what the industry is doing for the next year. So it's a good one to come to.
That'd be a great one.
I'll be holding the newborn.
Yeah, you're gonna be
first time.
Yeah, new baby.
New baby.
baby.
All right, you
Yes.
can miss that one, but maybe you have to show up.
I'm gonna miss all the fun meetings this year.
Yeah, I'm headed to a conference that Dre and I went to together last year, the Commercial Real Estate Influencer Summit. So it's kind of a social media focused commercial real estate one in September. But hey, October's free right now. So
free.
yeah,
It's
fall
a good
meeting,
one.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If people want to get a hold of you in particular, how could they do that?
My contact is on our website, or you certainly can ask either of you guys, and you can pass it along.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on all the things.
All the social
Find me on all of
all
them.
the things.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for viewers for tuning in, and we look forward to just keep on producing good content for you guys and awesome
Doing the good
guests
work.
like the Karlee.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
Karlee.
Thank you, Karlee.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.